Andrew here with Canadian Musician Radio. I'm really happy to be speaking today with Mac DeMarco on the phone from, where am I speaking to you?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, New York. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Just a few short days away from the release of Mac's second full-length release. It's called Salad Days. It's going to be dropping right at the foot of April. And, hopefully full of more of the shimmering guitar leads and beautifully poetic lyrics that we all got a taste of with his full-length debut, which was called 2. It's available now through Captured Tracks, and I highly encourage folks check it out. Mac, what's been keeping you busy lately leading up to the release of Salad Days?
I guess we've pretty much just been touring. I mean, I did it in November, and that was like, it was right after I kind of had a chunk of time, so it was like up until then I'd been touring, did an album, then like the last day of recording I had to go get on a plane back to the UK to start a tour again, so we've pretty much just been on the road. I've had a little bit of time since Christmas, but still I've been flying around and we've been doing shows and kind of like one-offs, and I guess all the stuff for, promotion for the album and stuff like that has been kind of taking a little bit of time.
Bang on. I want to ask you first before we get talking about the record, but leading up to this, I've had a really good time. I stumbled upon one of your interviews from Pitchfork Festival on Weird Vibes and couldn't stop watching them. I think you're really good on both sides of the mic. Do you prefer, if you had to pick one or the other, would you prefer to interview or be interviewed?
I think I prefer being interviewed. I mean, I really had no idea what I was doing with the Weird Vibes. The funny thing about it is, like, a lot of what makes it funny is I think surely the girl that does that show knows how to edit stuff fairly well, because like some of the stuff I was asking people was like so unfunny and like so awkward. It's just, I'm glad it's never going to see the light of day.
Oh, I had a good time with it. Maybe a career opportunity depending on what happens with music. But
I mean, maybe if I gave it a shot, I could get better at it. But I'm not opposed to the idea. But being interviewed is just easier, I guess.
And for anyone out there listening, absolutely, you can check out its Weird Vibes, a string of YouTube programs. And the first one I saw was Mac with Sky Ferrara, and lots of fun on there. Let's speak a little bit to Salad Days here. And first and foremost, I haven't had a chance to spend as much time with the record as I like or that I plan to over the next few weeks, but I'd love to hear from your perspective. I mean, sonically speaking, what are the elements here that might be fresh or things that folks that are really familiar with 2 may not have experienced from you just yet?
As far as sonic elements go?
Yeah, and again,
I guess it actually is like pretty similar to 2. I mean, I had all these like grandiose ideas about how I was going to record it, yada yada yada, and but I ended up just using a lot of the same gear. A couple different things, and the style's a little bit different. But I guess the main difference, there's a couple tracks on it with synthesizer, where they're very synth heavy, and I've never really written on any instrument other than a guitar before. So just the whole idea of me doing that, it's kind of, I don't really know what I'm doing on a keyboard at all. So it's interesting to me, and I don't know. I think those songs are maybe what'll stand out on it. Other than that, though, I'd say it's it's definitely in the same vein as 2. It's definitely what's different about it isn't really, I think, the recording or the style of the music necessarily. Maybe more like the subject matter. But
sure,
I don't know.
With that, and maybe speaking specifically to Salad Days, although maybe it's the same for all of your output, but you play a number of different instruments on both sides of the coin, whether we're talking songwriting and when you're fleshing these things out through to in the studio. Whose fingerprints are on the record as far as instrumentation? I mean, what are you laying down, and who else was brought into the fold to handle any of the other parts, if that was the case?
It's all me on 2 and Rock on My Club. Yeah, and I mix and record them as well. The only other person that really does anything with the sound is my mastering guy, and he just cuts up the vinyl and makes sure it doesn't sound like too screwed up to go through people's stereos. But But yeah, on Rock and Roll Nightclub, I had a couple people sing on a couple songs, and my guitarist Peter played like a guitar solo or two with me. But that was more of like a different vibe from these two. So yeah, but I just kind of lock myself up and do everything myself.
Very cool. Rock and Roll Nightclub 2 and Salad Days. I'm not sure about all of the songs on Rock and Roll Nightclub, but at least when it was put together, you had moved from out west to Montreal. And I'm just curious as to, I mean, you were recording and releasing music prior to that when you were out on the coast. Make Out Videotape was the name of the project, but I'm just wondering, Montreal, was there anything about the new setting that in any way had an influence on your output and the direction it took when you started recording under your own name?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the songs on Rock and Roll Nightclub are angry songs towards Montreal. Like European Vegas is pretty much just making fun of Montreal, and She's Really All I Need is about, like, you know, people that I tend to disagree with that I find in abundance in Montreal and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I mean, it's always been kind of the same. I mean, I guess it was the first time when I was really recording more, like, I was surrounded by roommates the whole time. So that was the main difference. Like, before that in Vancouver, I usually had places where I could go and kind of hide out and work in privacy or whatever. In Edmonton, it was even easier because I could just go in my garage or whatever. But yeah, Montreal was like, you know, it changes the way you write songs because you don't want to, like, be like Mr., you know, crybaby poet dude in front of your, like, cool roommates. So also be like, you loser, you know. So I don't know. Maybe that's why I wrote all those songs about, like, wearing boots and, like, riding your motorcycle and stuff. And then I did eventually end up getting my own apartment in Montreal with my girlfriend, and that's when 2 came around. So I was, like, completely isolated again. So I think it does change things a little bit.
I don't want to focus too much on on the review specifically, but I actually think, I'm pretty sure that, when I first got my hands on 2, it was after reading the review and you getting the Best New Music certification from Pitchfork. And since then, like, a lot of the really great live footage that I've seen comes from the Pitchfork festivals. I'm just curious as to what your relationship is with anyone at the site, if at all, if only because they seem to be a very big supporter of what you do, and I've got to imagine that that's had a great effect in building your profile, especially in international markets.
I mean, it's really lucky because, I mean, you know, there's no telling if they're going to like a band or not. Luckily, they did like me because they do have a huge influence on, like, you know, popular music these days. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I signed to Capture Tracks, I kind of assumed, like, they, you know, all their bands are reviewed on there. So I was kind of like, oh, you know, and it's kind of a weird thing for Canadians because it's pretty hard to get any kind of recognition in the States, and you can tour back and forth across Canada, you know, a whole bunch. But, yeah, I mean, they started reviewing it. I actually do know, like, the whole Pitchfork TV crew I know pretty well. And then the guy that owns the website, Ryan Schreiber, I know him pretty well. Most people live in Brooklyn, so I just see them around all the time. And I guess a couple of the writers I have met and, like, I've talked to a bunch of people, so, you know, they're nice enough to bring us to a festival in Chicago and in Paris. So, yeah, so kind of it's nice seeing those guys. It's cool.
With that, would it be fair to say, and I'm just judging this based on what I'm seeing from my perspective, that basically being the internet, but would it be fair to say that you're one of the elite artists that, being Canadian, have largely been left to the U.S. and other parts of the world to really be discovered and celebrated? Like, do you find that most of the media attention and the reception you get at live shows, is it, as I'd assumed, do you find that it's better in the U.S. than it is in your home and native land?
Yeah, sort of. It's kind of weird because, I mean, I toured across Canada so many times as Make Out Videotape, like, back and forth, and then we'd go to the States and play to absolutely nobody over and over and over again. And for a little while, like, you know, Acclaim and, you know, other, like, the papers in Canada were like, you know, they would, like, you know, oh, Mac's moving to Montreal. Like, it's like Mac, you know, Mac took a shower today, like that kind of thing. It was cool. Let's Make Out Videotape. But eventually, yeah, I don't know. I think it's like, I mean, I just did it so much. You know, I've been to so many cities and so many people from the music scene. They're just kind of like, oh, what's that, Mac? Like, how you doing? So, you know, I'm just like one of the guys. But then the States, States, it's funny because, you know, I get all this press in the States, and then it's like a brand new thing for everybody where I can tour and people are seeing us for the first time. Where in Canada, people have been playing me, seeing like different, you know, incarnations of bands for years and years. So it's funny to me because it's like kind of starting over, but not really, you know.
That's just so strange, and what's really weird too is that, like, when I think of bands where that's the case, like the weaker bands come to mind, at least back in the day, and well, I mean, you're somebody from Montreal too. It's just I can't put my finger on what informs that, because it's a lot of groups that come from very different. Well, even Drake, like, for God's sakes, it's just these people that are totally stylistically diverse, and it just seems that, you know, sometimes it for whatever reason just doesn't like gain the traction it deserves in Canada, and then we kind of it's like after the fact that we try to claim people. Anyway, kind of use them a little bit. A few folks have been reporting of late about you doing some things, and I don't know exactly what that entails or if you'd even want to disclose, but with Tyler, the Creator. And yeah, if you can give us an idea as to what you're working on. Ultimately, my question, though, just in case it's something you're keeping under wraps, is just about collaboration. And I mean, I'm curious as to your thoughts on getting into these scenarios where you're performing, playing with other musicians that, like, at least in this case, are stylistically quite different, and what that allows you to do creatively, and, you know, what you can bring back with you to your own material.
Yeah, I guess, well, with the Tyler thing, I think a lot of people, at this point, they're all like, ooh, collaboration. But in you know, truthfully, it's more like we just hung out, and maybe we spent a little time in the recording studio, maybe a little bit of time in a green screen. Like, the guy does have a TV show, after all. So, I mean, I can't really say anything more than that. I can't say that it's probably going to be really offensive, but yeah, I don't know. As far as collaboration goes, I've never really felt comfortable with it. It's kind of like similar I feel about recording studios, because in a way that is like a collaboration. Like, you have some engineer and stuff, and it's like I've always preferred to do things on my own, and I feel like when I do things, they come out better when I'm on my own. Maybe it's that I get uncomfortable around other people, or maybe I just haven't found the right people to surround myself with to make something that I can be proud of or something. But I mean, I'm open to it always, but it just kind of depends on the vibe. But I don't know. I mean, maybe it'd be really cool to have, I feel like it would be easier, and that whole idea of like having a band that is actually like a band where everybody's contributing and it's like a group thing, like in the actual traditional sense. Like, I would love to do that, but I'm just not. I never really have been. So maybe someday, but for now, I'm just a loner.
Oh, very good. I appreciate the insight there, and I'm sure there are a lot of people waiting with bated breath on what comes out of that one. So we're talking about Salad Days release date coming up April 1st. You've announced a number of tour dates, North America, South America, and Europe, surrounding the time. I'm just wondering, once the album drops and looking ahead, whether it's cemented plans or anything that you're just kind of kicking around idea-wise, but what else is on the horizon for you once the album comes down?
I guess it's touring it for a while, and I'm going to try and with two, I didn't get a chance to do new music, like to write new music for a long time, and I don't really ever do it on the road. So I'm hoping that with this album, I'll be able to, tour it as much as we feel comfortable doing, or as much as we can, I guess, and then hopefully just keep making more music. Like, I'd like to have a higher output level like I did before, because sitting on something for that long just kind of drives me completely insane, especially when, the album, I made the album in November, it's not coming out until April. That's a long enough period to sit with it, and then, you have to sit with it for, like, what's the average album cycle, like 11 months or something. It's, like, kind of insane,
No doubt.
So I just you got to keep it fresh.
There it is. Got to keep fresh. Words of wisdom. Mac DeMarco, speaking to him from Brooklyn. The album, as we mentioned, is Salad Days. Comes out in April, although you can currently pre-order that on the iTunes Store, and you'll get an immediate download of Passing Out Pieces, which is presumably the first single from the record. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and I really like that track, by the way. I hope you'll let me say it was really cool. Like when I first started playing it, I got like that early '90s Ice Cube vibe for a little bit. And
cool.
But yeah, I've really enjoyed getting into your stuff, and I, like hopefully other people here, are looking forward to keeping an ear on what's coming up down the road from you.
Great, I'm glad.
Yeah, so anyway, thanks a lot to Mac DeMarco, and we'll be back shortly with more Canadian Musician Radio. Don't go away.
Watching my life, passing right in front of my eyes. Hello, story.